Okay, so in this part of the training today, I think that we've agreed that we're going to talk about dashboards. And before I start to drill down and really show the whole concept of dashboards and so forth and so on, I just want to mention that not too long ago, before anybody else joined this morning, Janine and I were just chatting, and she just offhandedly asked me, why a dashboard anyway? What is the great benefit of a dashboard? And actually, it might not have occurred to me to even mention that. I might have just dived into the technology of it. But actually, it's a great question. What is the great value? What is the great benefit? And it does have to do with the nature of this platform. So if you can see right here, you're looking at my screen right now, you can see that there is a lot going on here. I mean, there's work areas like projects, which, one, two, three, four, five, six related entities, tables in the database, if you will, under projects alone. Then you've got the coins and tokens and mining and master nodes and compliance, and all of these things are related to each other, but they are separate things. They are separate entities in the system. And the way that this system works is that in order for you to see something, you need to go to that something. So I'm just going to say projects. If I click on projects because I'm curious about projects, or I have a very specific question that I have to answer about a given project or about projects in general, I need to go to projects. And now my world is all about projects. Now, it may be true that I can open up a project, one project, and I can see related information to that project. I mean, obviously, you know that I can go and I can look at the analyses under the project and so forth. I can open up that analyses. But if you haven't noticed, there is just a lot of clicking, right, to get to the information to answer the questions that you want. Now, it's a robust system, so by design, of course, it has to be that way. You have a lot of layers of information. But there's a lot going on, like I said. So if I click here and I decide I want to see something else, or shift my focus to something else, well, that's when I'll click on that something else, and now I'm looking really just at that item. And by and large, with the exception of a few related entities, you really can only look at one entity type at a time that captures your attention. Well, with a dashboard, that's not necessarily true. So with a dashboard, you are able to look at multiple entities in the system at once. So I will say there's two major benefits. The first is just what I said. You get to look at several different things at the same time, up to six, actually. If you decided that each one of these components, and these are called dashboard components, were going to be directed to a different entity, and as you know, there's upwards of 30 entities in the system, so six at a time isn't too bad, but you could have a component for a separate entity. And so here you have project analyses. That's not to be confused with projects themselves. Now, this particular dashboard has 1, 2, 3 major different entities that is represented all at once. So I've got my project analyses here on the left. I've got project findings on the right. And this central one is a specific view, or I should say a specific chart represented by a specific view of projects. And these are a couple of other different charts regarding projects. So these three dashboard components are projects, and this is project analyses and project findings. Now, I just touched on the second benefit. So the first benefit is the fact that you don't have to go clicking around to see what you're looking for. You could have it right in front of your face, all in one place, up to 6 different things. But in addition to that, each one of those things can be specifically tailored to your interest. What are you yourself interested in? The person who's looking at this right now might conjecture that I am interested in looking at hard caps over time by country. And that is a very specific set of data that's stitched together based on the information in the project. And by the way, it's my watch list. In other words, it's very specific. It's specific to the ones that I'm interested in, the projects I'm interested in. It's specific to the countries that they're involved with, and it has to do with the hard caps. So that's a very specific set of information that can be derived and represented on a chart. As you know from previous training, we can have all kinds of charts that we can just build at will. But to place it in front of my eyes, it sort of reminds me what I need to focus on that particular day or when I want to look at my dashboard. And that's true for every entity in the system. So whatever it is that you decide to place on a dashboard, whatever you feel that you're interested in the most, you want to put that front and center in front of your eyes. Now, does that make sense?
Yeah, mostly it does, but I would want to make them as flexible as possible, I think, because maybe 6 items isn't enough.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think that you should also know that these dashboards are interactive. And when I say interactive, does anybody know what I mean?
You mean you can pop them out?
Right, exactly. These little, I guess you've played with the system recently. So yeah, so each one of these components, there's these 3 little icons here, and they can be quite useful. For instance, if this is sort of taxing your eyeballs to an extent, you can use this little icon to enlarge the chart. And that just brings up the entire chart in sort of an easy to see manner. And that's the small right-handed icon that says enlarge the chart. Another one here on the left is refresh the chart. So that simply means if you're just staring at a dashboard and you have people entering data for you or whatever, every once in a while you might want to refresh that chart because this data might actually change, especially if you're in a busy environment where a lot of people are putting data into the system. And then finally, this is perhaps maybe the most useful one. It's the center one where it says view the records that are used to generate the chart. And that is very, very useful. So if I click on that, does anybody recognize this?
It's what you get when you click on projects.
Exactly. This is pretty much what you see when you visit the project entity. It's essentially a view. It's a list of views. It's all the different views that you have, the ones that you have specifically built for yourself, but also the system views. But what's nice about it is the chart pops up along with it. So I'll do that again. So again, if you click on that middle icon, you get the chart that you have on your dashboard along with the data. Now, I think everybody knows how these work, where they are interactive, so you can drill down on the data. So, for instance, if you are specifically interested in a given country right here, you would click on this, and you'd see that this is the June 2018 Bixi exchange, and it's given by a specific country. In this case, it's Armenia. That's just how it works. That's how all these work, depending on your chart. And again, you've opened this up, and you've opened up all the capability that you have when you're just looking at the actual project. So it's really sort of a shortcut to get to that item. So here, same thing here. Now, you'll see, of course, that you wouldn't have an enlarged chart when there is no chart. These are called views, and these are charts. And those are the 2 components, well, 2 of 4. There's a couple of advanced components, but those are the 2 components that most people put on their dashboards. And again, you can click here, and you will get, your views that you have. And needless to say, just because it is a nice little handy pop-out, you can also click on your charts, and if you have any charts for a specific item like this, and you'll see that information that way. So that's just a quick introduction. So I think what we'll do next is we'll just dive in and start to show how to actually construct the elements and components of a dashboard. Are there any questions about what I just said?
So it looks like what I was asking about with respect to flexibility is addressed by the fact that I can snap them out and work with them. And it looks like I can also switch charts on some of the components right in place without popping them out.
Yes.
So I can create as many of these as I want?
Actually, that's right. You can have actually endless number of dashboards. You can have as many dashboards as you want.
Thanks, but did you mention there were some, I think you said advanced options? What are those?
Right. Well, you know what? I can jump in there really quickly and show you. So basically, yeah, when you click a dashboard and you want to look at this dashboard and create a brand new dashboard, there are, as I mentioned, charts and there are views, okay, or lists as they're called here. But there's also iframes, which is very interesting because you can, in fact, put a site, an external site right on a dashboard. And there's even web resources, which web resources are very flexible, a little bit programmatic there, but web resources are really flexible items that, you can actually put code in, JavaScript and things like that. And there's a new thing called Relationship Assistant, and that's just really a topic for another discussion. But these two items here are pretty much the most common components.
Excuse me, sorry, but do you have an example of an iframe you could maybe show us?
Absolutely. If you just go to, I think we have public addresses. It's a good one. So basically these, as you know from previous training, public addresses is just the ability to open up something like, in this particular case, it's a public address, somebody's public address. In this case, it's the public address for the ICO taxi. And this right here, a block explorer. So this is technically an iframe. And it's pretty cool because basically what this iframe does is it can take the parameter, it can take the public address and pass it to that site, to that external site, and get back the information that's specific to that particular address. So that's an iframe. So it's possible to have iframes right on your dashboard. All right, good. Well, thank you. Thanks for the questions. And I'm going to switch over now to begin to construct.